Hi, everyone. Stephanie with the patient story. Matthew's joining us to wrap up his final segment for this conversation. Matthew, you went through so much. That's very clear. We're going to bring up this next photos really shows, I mean, it delineates physically what you went through. And then I'd love to really ask you this point, which is you've talked along this entire conversation about the resilience. And what I appreciate about your message is you also talk about the points where you're human, right? Where you might make a decision, oh, I'm gonna like, this is gonna be empowering, but you're gonna have moments where it becomes really dark and that's hard to see. But then you somehow are able to reverse that again. So talk to us about, and I'm going to pull up a picture of you with the surgeries and your body. Talk about how, especially the complications, really got you to today. This resilience, this strength.
Yeah, so coming out of that hospital was not rainbows and butterflies. It was a challenge for sure. This is actually 2.5 years after cancer. So if I can send you some pictures if you ever want to share it of what I really looked like coming out of that hospital. I was 110 pounds. I was skin and bone. As you can see, that scar right there, it was completely open at the time. So the problem with me is I didn't have the nurses and I didn't have the doctors to hold me accountable anymore. So I had to do all of my physical therapy and everything on my own. And I started to, for a good 2 weeks, get into that excuse mode. And within 2 weeks, I was back in the hospital with, yeah, that's a good picture right there to show how small I really ended up getting. And I ended up back in the hospital with a standing heart rate of over 150 beats a minute. My fever was over 102 degrees. My blood pressure was through the roof. And I'd stay there for a good 3 to 5 days to get everything down. And when I got out of there, I basically sat down with Lauren and we had the discussion of if I am going to keep making excuses and not take care of myself, I probably will not be here next month. I probably will not be here in 6 months. And it wasn't a bad conversation. It was exactly what I needed. And it allowed me to, I probably cried for a good hour and a half that night and it just let all my emotions out. But you know what I did? The next day, I literally got into um, my little weight room at my house and I picked up a 5 pound dumbbell and I started doing bicep curls. That's all I did. The next day I did the same thing. The next day I walked a little further. And it was every day just compounding. And eventually I started gaining some weight. Eventually my mental attitude started to get stronger. I started to look at life as a lesson, started to look at life as a growth opportunity. And, after a year, my wound finally healed. So my skin grew over. And after 2 years, as you can see in the original picture, my strength started to come back. I was lifting, I literally told myself, I am not going to let myself down here. I'm going to just work my butt off every single day. So this is somebody who's on a health journey right now. I was like, hey, I lost all this weight or I gained all this weight. How do I get to where I am? Consistency. So I'm going to tell you consistency and using your dedication to just never giving up on yourself. So for me, after about 2.5 to 3 years, I said, okay, I was able to take care of my mental, emotional, physical health. So what is next for me? For a lot of us, I think a lot of survivors or even if you're going through cancer right now, you could even start feeling this or you will start to feel this is what is next? God didn't put me through this crazy challenge just to go back to my normal life. I have something so much bigger to offer to this world, but I have no idea what to do. And that's exactly how I felt. So I started to get around like-minded people. Biggest thing that's ever happened for me in my entire life is if you want to change the direction of your life, be around the people that are going to help you get there. And this is good. I don't want this to sound bad or mean, but I had to stop hanging around with certain people that I used to all the time that wanted to go and drink every weekend and things like that. And I had to stop listening to people who really loved me and cared for me and thought that I was crazy for not going back to my 9 to 5 and wanting to do something bigger with my life and get around. What I got around was entrepreneurs because they all have this growth mindset. This I have a vision and I want to get there. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if you have a big dream in your life, the only person that's gonna believe in you at first is you. And
Mhm.
you need to be the one to have the courage to go forward, to push yourself forward. That is where faith comes in. That is where you believe in yourself and have the courage to just keep pushing forward. So I said, that's what I'm going to do. And then I surrounded myself with like-minded people. And as I started sharing my story, like we're doing today, they're like, whoa, okay, you need to get that out to the world. And I think you need to become a keynote motivational speaker. So in 2019, I started my own LLC and I became a keynote motivational speaker. And, I was talking on stages, I was talking on, Zoom calls and stuff. And then obviously COVID hit. And, it took a little wrench in it. And I said, okay, well, what's next? But that's okay. It's okay. We all have setbacks and we have different directions we go in our life. So then I started coaching other survivors and I started coaching other patients to help them do exactly what I'm doing now, figuring out our path in life. So it brought me to so many avenues and so many directions. And, long story short, today now I just created a Facebook group in October, and for cancer patients, cancer survivors, and caregivers of all ages. And I was really nervous. It took me about 3 months to have the courage to do it. And we have now over 1,100 people
It's
in the
amazing.
group, and
Yeah.
it is just absolutely incredible. I can't even explain it to you. So yeah, that's my journey right now of resilience and how cancer has really brought me to figuring out what I want to do with my life. And I'm not saying you have to go on these grand stages or anything.
Right.
Maybe it's being a better mother. Maybe it's being a better father. Maybe it's putting perspective and gratitude into your life to
Mhm.
just become a better version of yourself and then help one or two other people along the way. You want to know where true happiness comes from? It comes from giving back to other people
Yeah.
in a way that you've learned from a certain experience that you went through, a challenging experience. One of my favorite acronyms is HOPE, and
Mhm.
it's help one person every day.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is it doesn't have to be anything massive. It's just doing something to make an impact in this world, and you're going to bring a lot more joy and happiness into your life.
Ugh, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, honestly, so many things that you said resonated, especially, in terms of the sort of like bigger purpose or calling out of something that's at first seems really dark and you're like what good can come of a cancer diagnosis, but that's how you started your coaching and you've impacted so many lives, and now this Facebook group with more than 1,100 people. It's a real community you've created. And what we're trying to do with the patient story too, and trying to remind that every life that you can touch in some way, hopefully in that right direction, is so meaningful. So we'll make sure to link to your Facebook group, on the patientstory.com interview. And as we wrap this, I also want to I know there's this great picture of you and this moment for you where you're able to physically run a 5K. That was not just any
Yes.
5K, but very special. So maybe we can
Yes.
we can leave off with that.
Love it. Absolutely. So, yes, this 5K is very special, and it's not just this 5K, but as you guys, could potentially remember back in, I don't remember if it was the first section or the second section, but when I lost all my hair and I grew that mustache, and all of my friends grew mustaches throughout the journey as well. Well, when I finished chemotherapy, my dad said, you know what, Matt? We're going to host an event on Thanksgiving morning because I finished my chemotherapy on the 21st of November, on Thanksgiving morning. And what we're going to do is we're going to have people come to Cleveland where they host what's called a turkey trot. It's a 5 and 10K race where thousands of people show up on Thanksgiving morning. But for us, we're like, okay, it's 7 in the morning. At the time, it was 32 degrees. We're like, we have no idea how many people are actually going to show up to this, but so be it. We'll give them free T-shirts if they want to. And we had over 400 people show up to this event. Absolutely astonished me. Like it was like incredible. And we ended up calling the event Mustaches for Matt. And that is the reason, is because I lost all my hair. Everyone grew mustaches. And, it was really powerful because all the girls grew mustaches. Um, and not sorry, not grew mustaches. They all wore fake mustaches. All the guys grew the mustaches, and it
Yeah.
was super powerful. And it was just, I'll tell you right now, I didn't even know 200 of the 400 people that were there, just to show how much support and love.
Wow.
I really, what I'm trying to get at here is you have so much more love and support in your life than you could ever imagine, and you don't even know about. I mean, they were telling me people were praying for me in around the world,
Mhm.
Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia. People were praying for me. How did my message and story even get out there? But it just goes to show the power of having people in your life and having that support. So the cool thing is that picture right there was the third time that we did that, and every time we've had hundreds of people show up, wear these shirts, support. And that was my first time. This is why it was so big. It was my very first time ever being, because I had to relearn to walk again. I had to relearn to live my entire life again. That was my very first 5K that I'd done after cancer. And to do it with holding Lauren's hand and everything, it was super powerful, and it was very emotional, and just an amazing day. And unfortunately, 2020, I actually was about to host my own mustaches for Matt Race and bring money to a young adult organization. But unfortunately, COVID hit and we couldn't do it. So
Right.
hopefully this year or next year, we will be getting it back and running. But I feel like, a cool way to end it. And just, it, it just goes to show that, if you the support that you have, but also you have so many opportunities in your life to do great things with yourself, and just don't be afraid to go after them. It's scary at first, but just take that leap of faith, and you'll be amazed at what God can do for you. So
Thank you so much, Matthew.
you're
An
welcome. Thanks for having
incredible
me.
story. Yeah. And, so many takeaways throughout the entire conversation. I think you really stressed the need for taking care of yourself, especially mentally, right? Taking the small steps to get yourself there. And no one's expecting you to flip some switch. It doesn't happen like that. But it's the small wins. And you had used the word consistency also when you were talking about your recovery. These are the things that help lead people to a place where things seem so much clearer, and then you feel that power again in your life. And then also the support aspect of your story, where you had Lauren, your parents, your family, your friends, the 200 strangers out of the 400 who showed up for that turkey trot, all of these things is about taking care of yourself in some way, and look for that support, right? Don't be afraid to seek it. So I look forward to, I'm sure we'll talk again. And
Yes.
the next time I talk to you, your Facebook group's probably gonna be like, 10,000 people.
I hope that'd
Connected.
be. I hope, and I don't hope. It's like, I look at it this way: it's a group I never wanted to create because it's
Right,
sad to see everything. But the
right.
positivity and love in this group, it's so unique. It's for people who are looking to take action and not just sit there and complain, but more or less take action, share with what they're going through, and then give tangible and actual advice of how to overcome whatever you're going through.
Right.
So,
Through shared
thank you.
experiences, which are so powerful.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. So Matthew's interview will be up not just here on YouTube, but also on our thepatientstory.com site. So can't wait to get that up. And yeah, Matthew, thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie. It was a pleasure to be on your show today.
Wonderful.